Tonight I was going to go to the Dakota with my mom for a karaoke night. But I couldn't because I got sick. I've spent much of today coughing up phlegm, and spitting as a result. And I've had a fever throughout the day, much of it. This sort of sense of feeling warm, which is pretty much the only good part of having a cold. That you end up feeling really warm, especially in a blanket. And that feeling is pretty comfortable. Though I think as a result of the fever, it took me hours of trying to fall asleep to ultimately fall asleep. Though I don't think I fully tried to fall asleep. Because I listened to YouTube videos that weren't that of either binaural beats or the sound of rain/thunder. Basically, they weren't audio that you would listen to if you were really trying to fall asleep, but managed to fall asleep nonetheless. Around 7 p.m., Mom finished cooking some bone broth soup with some vegetables, some of which consisted of leftover carrots from Thanksgiving. The shrimp and deviled eggs are also Thanksgiving leftovers. And the rice is actually left over, part of the leftovers of that soup. The bone broth was low in sodium, which is what I wanted to achieve since having the last cup noodle stir fry, along with the turkey sandwich, some deviled eggs, and a glass of milk around 1 p.m. Since that cup noodles stir fry had a bunch of salt in it due to the seasoning, which was already pre-added. You just had to add water to it. Mom finished making the bone broth soup right before she left for the Dakota. Or at least that was the intention, but she ended up leaving around 8 p.m. The plan was for her to put a bunch of cayenne pepper spice and I think ultimately some curry spice in there too. Cayenne pepper spice was red. And while the curry spice, it was kind of reddish orange. I had a lot of those two spices put in so that bone broth soup would be spicy and make my nose run to clear out my sinuses. Not that my nose was horribly stuffed. I could still breathe through my nose. Though I did end up breathing through my mouth at times due to how spicy that soup ended up being. It was painful to finish that soup, to eat it due to all the spices in it. But I managed to push through the pain and finish eating that soup. After which I felt pretty good. The soup as a whole didn't really have any flavor. Due to it consisting of a low sodium bone broth and some veggies. Throughout the day, Mom's made me tea with Manuka honey. Honey that's supposed to fight off bacterial infections. I've had 2 cups of that. Then she mixed zinc powder in and with water in plastic water bottles, plastic reusable water bottles. If I recall correctly, around noon, during a particularly bad coughing fit, in which I went in the blue bathroom because I became afraid I would end up throwing up, even though I didn't, thankfully. Mom had me take a COVID test, in which on the same end, I basically put the equivalent of a Q-tip deep up both of my nostrils to get some snot. Basically as far up as I felt comfortable. And within 15 minutes after doing that, I was told that the test result was negative. so I don't have COVID, and it's probably just a cold. At some point after that, Mom got a plastic cup, filled it with water, and mixed in a more concentrated form of zinc as well as some elderberry. Kind of powders, I would assume. Since it ended up looking like an ordinary glass of water and pretty much tasted like one too. It only tasted a little bit like zinc, from my recollection. I had some of the rice plain after I finished the soup around 7 p.m. And it ended up being pretty much all the food I could handle at that time. I didn't work on polystyrene drawings today. Since obviously I didn't feel my best and I didn't want to risk getting spittle or phlegm on a polystyrene drawing project. I remember doing a whole bunch of Duolingo Spanish lessons throughout the day. Because recent changes to the app pretty much made it so that only either full-on practice or doing a new lesson or doing one of those leaderboard challenges that you have to pay gems in order to attempt really gets you a decent amount of experience, and I didn't really feel like doing any new lessons. Right now I don't think I'm coughing as much as I was before, and I have a sore throat, either from the cold or from all the spitting I did throughout the day in order to get rid of phlegm, I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm doing okay, and at this time I've called Dad at some point and told him that I have a cold. I recall doing this around 5:45 p.m. Sometime during the early evening. While eating the bone broth soup, I would only take a sip of the orange juice I had with it here and there in order to ensure that I didn't get heartburn from eating that spicy soup. As such, I think I only drank about a third max of that glass of orange juice while I was eating that spicy soup. I pretty much had the rest with that balsamic rice that I had afterwards.